David Stone is a physically dominant defensive lineman that can wreck a game plan. With his traits and tools, his game resembles a Pro Bowl defensive tackle.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I'm Damian, Parson. That's Keith Sanchez, and today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. We're talking defensive tackles for the 2027 NFL Draft, and heading into the college football season this fall for summer scouting. We're talking about David Stone, the defensive tackle from Oklahoma. We're going to explain the grade. I have a fun comp that I think you guys enjoy and more than likely agree with. We're going to talk about the concerns around his game. But as always, we start with the good news, the good things, what we really like about his game, the pros. Last year, Keith, David Stone, 2 sacks, 4 QB hits, 20 pressures. A guy is listed at 6'3", 315 pounds. This is a physically dominant guy when I watched him on film, Keith. Like that popped off the tape was his power and everything, but also some athletic tools that I really like as well. What stood out to you? What was some of the things that you jotted down in your notes about David Stone?
Yeah, I thought it was first step quickness / explosiveness and how that converted into him being disruptive, right? I think he was able to generate power because it's the whole is that physics, DP? I was about to say chemistry is not chemistry, it's physics, right? I don't know if it's like the mass plus movement, whatever, right? There's an equation that goes on with David Stone, and it's him it's how he's able to generate power, and it's the 300-pound body plus the first step quickness, and then you see him get backfield, right? He's a backfield disruptor in the run game, right? This is a guy that you can tell shoot gaps, you can tell to slant, twists and stunts, things like that. And if he's able to work upfield, right, getting with his objective to get into the backfield, he's a very disruptive player. So I looked at it from that perspective as, hey, like he uses his athleticism and quick twitch to be able to be disruptive in the run game, and also as a pass rusher too, because it allows him to get pressures and things like that.
No, 100%, Keith. I agree with you. I'd put that quick get off at 315. I was like, okay, yeah, this dude moves upfield. And not only that, but it's then you factor in the lateral movement and the lateral quickness. Talking about being able to cross face, club, rip, and get right past interior offensive lineman. And like you said, in the run game, the running back's getting the ball sometimes, and he just club rips, and he's right there. And he's making the play in the backfield or getting into the face of the quarterback. Then you see reps. I think it was against Auburn. It was a red zone rep, like inside the 5. And he just takes the guard. I think it was the guard. He was head up on the guard. And he just just completely bull rushes him, locks him out, and walks him right to the backfield, causing the running back to jump cut a bounce out, allowing the linebackers to flow back over, get there, and make a stop before he can get past the line of scrimmage. That ability to reset the line of scrimmage as a run defender, I absolutely love, Keith, because like in the run game, I think that's where you look at the floor, he's an outstanding run defender. Like if he's left one-on-one, he's making a play. If he's double team, he's finding the way to make a play, get in the backfield, knife through the double team, things of that nature. You talked about shooting gaps as well. Like this young man has a lot to offer from the defensive tackle spot. I love talk about the power to get off. He's sudden, aggressive, but also decisive. Like he knows how he wants to win and like what works best against specific offensive tackles. Right,
Yep.
Keith? How many times we talk about guys like, hey, if power isn't there, like what's your answer? Like if you're like, hey, I'm playing against Keelan Rutledge, who's a power player himself, and I can't just like throw him to the side, then what's your answer, right? And it's just he attacks angles well. I love that part of his game, Keith. Like there's a football IQ aspect to him that is definitely helping him be able to get in the backfield, create that, like you said, being a backfield disruptor. That's a big thing for him right now.
Yeah, no, and we always talk about it, right? Like a player's path to success, right? And is it clearly defined how a player can be successful in that transition from college to NFL, right? Do they have traits or their play style, whatever it may be, to make them successful in the NFL? And I think with David Stone, you can see it. And you talked about, you said you get into NFL comps at the end of the NFL show. I look at it from like you said, a scheme perspective, right? I think if you put this young man in a attacking 4-3 scheme upfield, he should be able to thrive. I think about teams like, of course, the Dallas Cowboys, right? And they may go for undersized defensive tackles, but they generally like their defensive tackles quicker, right? Like they want them to get upfield and be able to attack. And there are obviously other teams and other schemes that want to do that, but the Cowboys notoriously they like those defensive tackles in that capacity. So I look at him and I'm like, okay, cool. I can see exactly what scheme I want him to play. Whether it's the shade or you want him to play the 3 tech, have that conversation, but I see exactly what he can be as a defensive tackle. And when you're evaluating players, I think that's very important to be like, hey, plug this guy right in here. Now may he end up higher on some people's boards than other teams? Yeah, but as long as he goes to the right situation, I can see him being successful.
No, 100%. I mean, and Brent Venables, we all know he's great at. You remember years ago we watched Perion Winfrey play zero tech, and it was like, oh, like what are we doing? Like that's not with Brent Venables being there. He's the type of DC that understands how to utilize his talent. Right? We've seen guys going back to his time at Clemson where when he was there, they looked like first round picks. The moment he left, oh yeah, like this is a day 2 prospect. It was just like, okay, it's not the same usage. He's not having the same success. So I love the fact that Coach Venables does a good job moving him around the defensive line too, because you see him I've seen him at 0, 1, 2-eye, 3, 4-eye. I can't remember which game it was, but he was lined up at like a 5 tech. Like he was at a defensive end spot. And I think they basically just kind of looped him around. It was like a stunt and everything. But I'm just like that ability to move around, which then leads me like, okay, is he a scheme versatile guy? Whereas like, could he play that defensive end spot? And this ain't my comp for him, but I'm gonna pull up the just mock draft to make sure that he wasn't too like just different size. But like if he were to play for those Bill Belichick led defenses, right? Those big Bill Belichick, back in the day, they ran those big 3-4s. So you had the big 300-pound defensive ends, and then you had Vince Wilfork. So you talk about
Richard Seymour,
Ty Warren, stuff like that. That like if you wanted to put him in that kind of Ty Warren, Richard Seymour role, I think he could do that too in the 3-4, Keith. I think he could absolutely be able to, because he handles the double teams well in the run game. Because that's really what you think about. You're like, okay, if I put you in the 3-4 as a DN, you're getting doubled. You're gonna have to deal with duo blocks. Can you hold him at the point of attack? He showcases strength, upper body and lower body. He can absolutely dig his cleats into the dirt and be able to anchor, and then use his upper body strength to fight through the blocks. Man, this is a guy, to me, Keith, I think he's got 3-down potential and everything. And I know, guys, I promise you, I get it. Like the numbers, you see 2 sacks, only 4 QB hits, and 20 pressure. You're like, 3-down potential. I don't know, DP. Like, listen to me. That's why you turn on the film. That's why you study the tape and you see what's what. He's facing a ton of double teams, but when he gets the opportunity to go one-on-one, he can get into the backfield and he can get back there quickly.
Yeah, I think too, DP, in my opinion, I thought he had good change of direction, the ability to plant a foot and redirect, which is so important, right? When you think about defensive defensive players in general, because you're always in a reactive state, right? So the ball could be flowing one way, but the minute the ball carrier or the quarterback, right, standing in a pocket and he redirects, then you have to be able to adjust to that. And we see it time and time again. You're talking about defenders overrunning a play, or they aren't able to break down, right? Like that's where you hear the coaches say, break down, right? It's because they want you to break down and be able to redirect to the flow of the football. I thought he was a fairly good athlete at 300 pounds, right? Which means that there's probably not a lot of bad weight on him, right? Like he probably in the gym carries his weight well, and a good overall reactive athlete, which, like I said, it plays in my opinion, in the run game and his ability to rush the quarterback, because he can kind of mirror the quarterback movements, right? I always talk about that that ability to retrace your steps, right? When you're working up the pocket, the quarterback steps up. Can you work back downhill? I guess you could say, in a sense, to get hands on the quarterback. But DP, let's go ahead and do this, man. We talked about the pros with Mr. David Stone, Oklahoma defensive tackle. Let's get into the concerns for David Stone, the Oklahoma defensive tackle. Let's discuss that coming up next.
Support for today's episode comes from Warby Parker. Whether you're running, golfing, hiking, coaching, or just spending a lot of time outdoors, regular sunglasses can slip, bounce, fog up, or make it harder to see clearly when you're moving. Warby Parker Spark was designed to solve those problems with performance features like no slip nose pads, a wraparound design for a wider field of vision, and lightweight frames. And beyond sport, they also offer prescription glasses, contacts, online eye exams, and more than 300 retail stores across the country, making eye care simple and convenient. And having sunglasses that don't slip off your nose is a game changer. I have a 6-year-old, so we go outside and play football, run around, things like that. That allowed me to be able to focus on what I'm doing and not my eyewear. Eyewear that's made to move with you. Right now, buy one pair of glasses and get 20% off an additional pair at warbyparker.com/lockedonNFL. That's 20% off any additional pairs when you purchase one pair at warbyparker.com/lockedonNFL. There are more live events than ever worth seeing right now. Games, concerts, comedy shows, festivals. The hard part isn't figuring out where I want to go. It's actually getting tickets for the show. Between long wait times, confusing checkout processes, and surprise fees, buying tickets can be harder and feel harder than it should be. And that's why so many fans are turning to Game Time. The app is built to make buying tickets simple with upfront pricing, seat views before you buy, and exclusive saving opportunities that help you get to the events that you want without the usual hassle. My biggest issue, I hate this, is when I think I found the best deal, the right deal for me and my wife, and we get all the way to checkout, and suddenly that final price takes a steep leap out of the range that we actually thought we were getting. Game Time takes out the guesswork. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to every type of event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Breaking down the concerns for David Stone, 6'3", 315-pound defensive tackle, versatile defensive tackle for the Oklahoma Sooners. Keith, what stood out to you when you were watching him? Okay, that's something I got to put down in the concerns area.
Yeah, so I talked about scheme in the first, right? And then in the first segment, I talked about what scheme I think he could be successful in. The other side of that is why I picked a specific scheme is because of this concern. To me, DP, I thought there were times where in the run game, offensive linemen were able to latch and they were able to get a yard or two of knockback. I don't know if he's a guy that I would consider as a big time anchor along the defensive line. Like, and you get those, and I mean, not only stalemating at the line of scrimmage, there's 3 versions, right? There's the guys that potentially lose ground, right? They give up a yard or two along the line of scrimmage. There's the guys that stalemate, and then there's the guys even in a run game. They're so technically sound and heavy-handed and strong. They knock the offensive lineman back a yard or two, right? And so I think about different schemes, DP, and we mentioned the 3-4. You mentioned some of the Patriots things. I look at it like this: that him playing that 4-eye could be difficult. I don't know if I want him to consistently face double teams and then also lining head up on offensive linemen. That's where I've seen some of the issues too. And it was weird because he has a quick first step, but at times, in my opinion, it feels that offensive linemen were kind of able to get to him first. And maybe that's a pad height and pad leverage issue. But that was part that I seen. I'm like, okay, we may have to figure out what the success part is as far as with you in the run game and how to place you in the best situation.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think it goes right into some of the things that I saw, Keith. He plays high. He has a tendency to pop up and play high. And then, the hand counters and hand usage, I was talking about hand usage, I think his strike placement can improve. Where, typically you always you talk to the offensive line coach, you hear him coach up offensive linemen, they typically tell the guys, hey, your hands need to be inside the chest plate, inside the shoulder pads of the defender, because if your hands get outside, that opens you up to getting called for holding. if that guy goes to shed and to break free and get away from you, if your hand's outside, you're going to get called for holding 9 times out of 10. So they tell you to play with your hands inside. He's got a tendency where I don't think his hands can be all over the place, where sometimes his hands are inside, and he's like I said, some of the reps you see with him, that power looks overwhelming, and he's able to drive guys back. His hands are like his hands are inside. His hands are right there in the chest plate, and it's right where they're supposed to be. There's other times where his hands get outside of the frame, and the offensive lineman get their hands on the inside of his pads first, and that's where you see him kind of struggle to detach and unlatch from those run blocks. At least quickly. Yeah, he'll be able to eventually, like I said, you give up a yard or two, then he's able to kind of get his feet settled and fight through it. But number one, let's stay with a lower pad level so you can drive through those blocks. And now instead of them getting their hands on your chest plate, they only thing they can grab is outside of your shoulder pads, right? That's why for me, pad height and pad level for defensive linemen in general, especially in the run game, is so paramount, because it really impacts how offensive linemen can strike you, because it's hard to get their hands underneath you. And then it's like almost like, what's that? I hated it in high school. Like hand clean and power. I hated those stupid things. I couldn't stand them.
Hand clean and power clean.
I couldn't stand them. I couldn't stand them to save my life. But it's like, just like, because you're trying to get the weight up and then explode underneath. From an offensive lineman standpoint, how often are you going to see an offensive lineman in their natural stance? You're low. They get their hands underneath to your chest plate, but they're able to control the rep. No, you're still going to drive them back. So I think, to your point, Keith, because I did see some of the same things as well. I attribute it more to technique and process. Like, I want to see him like strike better, keep your hands inside, but also keep your pad level down. There were definitely, especially against double teams, I saw that at times too, where he just like stands straight up. And it was just like, dude, in the NFL, you play against the Baltimore Ravens, whoever that guard is, they're going to double him in that center. They're going to get you out the way. You know what I mean? They're going to move you. You can't stand straight up and give him the chest. Like you're giving, it's like a running back running high through the lane, Keith. You know what I'm saying? Like right. You giving them a big strike area, especially if you're a big body dude. Like, you know what I'm saying? Derrick Henry might be the one of the few that could do that. You know what I'm saying? But definitely, I saw that same thing. And I think, of course, I mentioned like the sack production, people are going to definitely be concerned with. Like, man, okay, so is he just a run stuffer? Because you see 2 sacks, like 4 QB hits. Your mind as a football person is like, oh, so he's just a first or second down guy. Yeah. I don't think so. You know what I mean?
He's more athletic than that. Yeah, like he provides more athleticism with the potential upside for providing more pressure / sacks, depending on what position you put him in. DP, I was going to say this too. I want to know his size. I think for the combine is going to be important, because he's listed, you said 6'3", 310, right? I think that's his general measurements. There are times on film, and this is going to matter, I feel like, a lot for him, where is he 6'2" and 295, right? A 298 under that 300 threshold mark. And I don't know if I may be past history, right, in categorizing Oklahoma defensive tackles, but this is usually what they produce, right? They produce a lot of 6'2.5", right at 300 or 290, 295 defensive tackles that work upfield. So he's somebody I also the size thing, I wouldn't put it as a concern, but it's definitely I want to it would be something I want to dot my I's and cross my T's with him, because I think that's going to project to where what scheme he plays in. Yeah,
I think that's a fair point, because you want to see a guy come to the Senior Bowl, or you see him at the combine and things that like that, because I mean, we know schools don't tell the truth. You know what I mean? We know schools don't tell the truth about height, weight, and everything else. If they listed arm length, I probably wouldn't believe that half the time either, because you guys just do what, it's natural, right? We used to it. I would definitely see him in person too, Keith. See how filled out the frame is. And then also question, okay, have you maxed out the frame? Like, if you do come in at 305, could we get you up to 310, 315? And can you carry it? You know what I mean? Or are you fully maxed out with your frame and everything? But definitely just some key things that we want to look at, Keith. Like I said, again, the sack production, I think that's more so just, hey, he sees a lot of double teams. He doesn't really get the one-on-ones. I would like to say, I would like to see more hand counters with him instead of just like the shooting the gap and just power and everything like that. I would like to see, give me a little double hand swipe. Give me a long arm into a club. Like have some other options in your bag, some more clubs in the golf bag, so that all right, this guy is going to sit on my right hand. He's not going to give me the inside track. All right, cool. I need to get back cross face. Now again, I see the lower body movements that he can absolutely cross face and make a guy. Like, I can't remember what game I was watching, but I think offensive line was super aggressive with him, with the like punch him. He just cross face and like dude fell on his face, on his hands and knees, and he was in the backfield. I'm like,
it was like I know a play. I know. I feel like I know a play. You're talking about he did it multiple times. It's almost like in basketball. It's like if you reach, I teach, right? Type of situation.
The Euro step, like a Euro step from a static situation. If you with seeing that movement ability, I'm like, okay, I know you got the quickness. You know what I mean? Now let's get the hands to match the quickness to where now you're absolutely just deconstructing these one-on-one situations, but also you're firing off and you're countering them quickly and getting into the backfield, because you don't want to get stuck on blocks in the NFL. Quarterbacks love that. If I can step up because I know you're not getting off the block, I'm good.
Yep, I agree. DP, let's do this, man. Let's go ahead and get into my favorite part of the show. You already know, explain the grade, right? But we tell you what's our draft grade for Mr. David Stone heading into the 2026 college football season. Did we give him a first round grade? Is there a second round grade? Maybe he dropped into the third round as far as grades for us. Let's discuss this coming up next.
Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organization know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone working towards the same goal. And that's true in sports, just like it is in business. I mean, look at the Seattle Seahawks, a team that no one would have envisioned winning the Super Bowl for the NFL this past season, but they made a decision. They went out, got Sam Darnold, and he helped lead them. They all play together as one unit and one team. Great organizations win because operations matter. And that's why you should get Odoo. Try it for free today at odoo.com/locked on. That's odoo.com/locked on. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you, our everydayers. Explaining the grade, Keith. When you look at David Stone, again, listed as 6'3", 315 pounds for the University of Oklahoma, what grade did you give him?
Yeah, I went with a late second, early third round grade. I like the young man. I think the parts and the concerns that we talked about, the run game stuff, and to me, it's checking boxes, right? And as far as with a defensive tackle, is he going to have to be scheme specific? I think that's the biggest question that I have, right? Like, is he going to have to be a scheme specific player? And then just checking those boxes of the measurables and seeing where he's at. But I think the upfield penetration, those type of things, I see a path for him to be a really good player in the NFL. And I think with this part too, DP, and it's kind of with me with corners, right? I prefer corners that have all of the skill sets to play man to man, right? Like that's, I've always ranked my corners those higher than your primary zone defenders. I think with defensive tackles, I lean more towards the heavy-handed 6'4", 300-pound guys that are stout against the run first. And then I go into the penetrating defensive tackles, right? Like I kind of go there. So that's what I decided to go with. I give him a late second, early third round grade.
Okay. No. I mean, that makes sense, because at the end of the day, it's really play style, preference, everything like that. I gave him a first. I think that this guy has high potential. I do want to see hand counters improve. I wonder, is he, because for me, talking about like the 4-3, if he's in a 4-3, he's playing more 3-tech. That usually means that we got a big Jordan Davis beside.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you this. Did you because I never got your answer on this. Do you think he's scheme specific? And then two, if it is a 4-3 scheme, do you see him playing? He can play both the shade or the 3-tech, or you see him primarily as a 3-tech? Like, what is your vision, and where do you insert him as a player?
Yeah, I think he can be scheme versatile. No, this is all bearing that he's 6'3", 315. Right? I always go back to darn Xavier Leggett. It was like, man, he's 6'3", run like that speed. And you're like, oh, he's
6'4". Yeah,
he's 6 foot, almost. He's 6'1", barely over 6 foot. And you're like, man, all right, this changes everything, right? Like, so if he comes in at 6'2" and a half, 295, I'm like, all right, this changes things a little bit. You're going to definitely be playing that 3 protect. But even going back, just was it not this past draft, but last year, the third, what was it? He was the 3rd overall pick. Mason Graham was like 6'2", 296.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
it was crazy. It was like, wait, what?
Like he was 296. He had a strong season for the Cleveland Browns. Unfortunately for him now, Myles Garrett is gone. So so that sucks. But you get Jared Verse, so you still got another young guy beside you. So I have him as a potential scheme versatile guy, depending on his actual height, weight, arm length, things like that. I think if he is in the 4-3, I do think that he could play some shade. I think truthfully, with his athleticism, I want him on one-on-ones. I want him one-on-one as many times as I can get him. Like, I gotta maximize. Like, that's it. I feel like if I put him at shade or put him too close to the center, I'm allowing him to get double team and neutralize his superpower. Yep. You know what I mean? Rather where I can put him where I can get that big. You think about lead. If I'm the Carolina Panthers, if they have a bad season, they fire Evero, their DC. They bring in a DC that's a 4-3 guy. You got Nick Scourton, you got Jalen Phillips on the edge, and everything. They brought in, Lee Hunter. They drafted him, and then they have Derek Brown. Well, on third down situations, what if you take Lee Hunter off the field and you put a David Stone at that 3-tech spot? Like, he would be the perfect situation in that if he were to go in the 4-3. I want him with a big body guy that, in those situations where I can allow him to get the one-on-ones, like the Jalen Carters and different guys we've seen throughout history, everything like that, the Quinnen Williams and all those guys. Let them get the one-on-one. Let them wreck the game as a pass rusher, Keith. Because, again, if he's 6'3", 315, with his strength, I'm sure it was interesting what his arm length is going to hit, what threshold he's going to hit on his arm length. Because I think his arm length is more than functional, because there's a rep where he's like, he beats the guard on the outside shoulder. And, again, athleticism, he's got some fluidity in his hips. He was leaning and bending around the block. The quarterback stepped up and he reached with his right hand and grabbed him and still got the sack. And I'm like, okay, if he had alligator arms, he's not reaching that quarterback. I've seen guys do it. So I feel like he's going to come in with a good wingspan, good arm length. But yeah, I got him as a first-round pick, Keith. I think the run game stuff that I see, the athleticism, the quick first step, twitch, lateral agility, he's got things you just can't teach. Now, again, this is all based on what he comes in at height, weight, size-wise. If he's an undersized guy, it's going to adjust. I'm going to have to adjust my grade a little bit. Right now, off of what I've seen on tape, I love the kid. I think he could be an absolute game wrecker if he takes that next step, technically, hand-fighting-wise, becoming more of a hand-to-hand combat specialist with his strength and athleticism. Yeah, we're going to have a guy living in the backfield. Those 20 pressures can go to 40, 50 pressures pretty quickly, Keith.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you this, and then I want you to get into your NFL comps. His play style, a version of these players, I'm going to ask you to rank them real quick, right? There's 2 guys I thought of. Peter Woods, Walter Nolan, and him, and David Stone. How would you rank those?
Oh, man, Walter Nolan first. Him and Peter Woods is interesting. Because they have similar strengths and everything. And if I remember, I'm gonna go. I love my boy Peter Woods. I'm gonna actually go with David Stone. I'm gonna go with David Stone. I think David Stone.
Not expecting that. But that shows me how high you are on David Stone.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, because I was like, regardless of what people were saying during the draft cycle, I was like, man, I'm not moving off Peter Woods, dog. Like, late first, I'm fine. You know what I mean? First round, still draft him. And clearly the Chiefs and Brett Veach agreed with me since they drafted them in the back of the first round. But comps, Keith, so again, when I saw his play style, and I was like, man, he's 6'3", 315.
Yeah.
I was like, who does he remind me of a little bit? If he's actually this size. And like the first thing that came to my mind, he's in Dallas right now, and that was Kenny Clark. I was like, if he's a legit 315, I was like, well, yeah, if he's a legit 315. I think Kenny, of course, right now, bigger body. Kenny's way more filled out right now. I think when he came in, he was probably a little bit small, like a little bit smaller and everything. But like the run game stuff, the way he's able to attack blocks, there was what game? It was one play where I think he missed his punch, and then they ran I think they tried to trap him with the pulling guard, and he just stood him up like in the hole, and I was just like, yeah, that's power. I was like, I love to see guys just be physical at the point of attack. I see that physicality again. Like you got to work on some of the pad level stuff. I thought about Kenny Clark, Keith. No, like I said, I brought up Mason Graham because Mason Graham was 6'3.5", 296. You know what I mean, and everything. And so those two came to mind.
How does he compare to Grady Jarrett to you? Do you think there's any?
That was another one that came to mind too.
Okay,
that was another one. Grady was so good in Atlanta. They just were so bad around him. You know what I mean? Like they had no edge rushers, nothing. Grady was he was one of the most underrated defensive tackles in the league. Especially when in his prime, early in his career, I definitely see that as well. There was one other one. I want to pull up his measurements and everything. Because I don't want to speak and be like, oh no, he's not the same size, so it's not gonna work out. But let me see where he is. Right, Jeffrey Simmons, 6'4", 305. Like
6'4",
Jeffrey,
305. Okay, yeah.
305. That's the other one. Like Jeffrey Simmons right now is arguably the top defensive tackle in the league, which he just got paid again, and everything because he's earned that. He can rush the passer. He's really strong against the run. So those were some names. There's a lot of different names and body types that came to mind. And again, it's all depending on what he comes in at. If he comes in close to that 305, 310, 300 pound, like, okay, I can see that Jeffrey Simmons arc for you because Jeffrey quick, he's agile, he's violent, he's powerful. Like all the similar things that I see with when it comes down to David Stone. I'm not gonna lie, that Jeffrey Simmons one, it might stick with me, Keith.
We'll see, DP. We'll see it. Then we'll see how he does this upcoming college football season, able to increase those sacks, play a little bit better in the run game, and then be one of the dominant defensive tackles because he definitely has the opportunity to be one of the best in the 2027 NFL draft class. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast all by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Coming up on tomorrow, we're going to keep the defensive tackle train going. Amari Washington, the big 6'3", 330 defensive tackle from Oregon. We're going to break down his game and tell you whether or not he's a first-round pick, guy who had a lot of buzz during the 2026 draft cycle. All that and more on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.